Anna Hoffman.
Hey friends, I'm Nikolai.
Hi, I'm Mustafa Turaman.
Hi, I'm Tanya Janka.
Hello.
And I'm excited to be the speaker at Azure Summit 2021.
It's a fantastic event that will be 11 days live streaming,
where more than 100 speakers from all over the world.
I'm excited to speak at Azure Summit about Power BI and Synapse Analytics.
And I'm going to talk about security.
And also a Microsoft MVP for Azure.
I'm speaking at Cloud Summit about automated release of .NET application.
And the best part is that this is a free event.
Come join me live at Learn TV on September 17th.
Come join me live on Learn TV on September 14th.
Come join me on Learn TV on the 14th of September this year.
A bunch of other Microsoft and community speakers.
So if you want to learn how to secure Azure, come to my talk.
Join us, it will be a lot of fun.
See you there.
See you there.
See you there.
See you there.
Hi everyone and welcome back to Cloud Summit 2021. I'm your host Stephen Simon and we are now on day 6 of Cloud Summit. Can you imagine we have had 5 days of Summit and we now start day number 6. Welcome everyone once again. We are streaming the first 1 hour of Cloud Summit on different platforms, and the first 1 hour is very specifically also available on very exclusively, I would say, not even exclusively, but it is available on Learn TV and also on Microsoft Developers YouTube channel. We have power-packed session today, and I'm really excited and looking forward for the sessions today. And I see many people joining us today. Andrew says morning, joining from the UK. Welcome Mukta and welcome Ganesh. Many people joining in, so welcome back everyone. For Andrew and for people who are asking, the other day we had some technical issues and we couldn't stream the last 2 sessions of the day. Andrew and everyone who is joining, there's an update that the other day we couldn't stream the last 2 sessions, but we have the sessions recorded and we'll upload it on website towards the end of the month. That is when we go ahead and upload all the sessions. We're really sorry about that, but it would all be okay. So Andrew, I hope that answers your questions. Hello everyone. Hi Aman. Welcome to the Cloud Summit. Jimmy says, hello, and my condolence to those that need to get up early on weekend to see this. I also appreciate Jimmy, Andrew, Khalid, Ganesh, Narendra, everyone who is joining, and to all those thousands and thousands of people who are joining us every single day and spending the time with us. We hope that we're able to add some value to you, and I really appreciate it. Andrew says, was looking forward to Rod's session. Yeah, absolutely. I was behind the scene and I was looking at Rod's session the other day. What an amazing session he had. Unfortunately, we couldn't stream it, but we will make the live stream, the recording sessions available 100% sure. Also, Rod had some technical issues, so we couldn't stream anyway. Having said that, let's go ahead until our keynote speaker join. Let's actually quickly go ahead and look at the agenda for today. So to start with, we have keynote by Alan ONeill. Alan ONeill is, that's a welcome note. Then we have a keynote by Alan ONeill. He's going to talk about Azure in general and community. He's a Microsoft Regional Director. Timmy says, you definitely did. It is incredibly informative here. Thanks everyone who is joining. team. Aman says, I work on Microsoft Azure App Service team. Glad to see this platform for Azure. Thanks, Aman. That's great. We have some amazing Microsoft people joining us throughout this summit. The cloud advocates, the senior program managers, the product managers, data scientists, principal program managers, and yeah, I'm glad that you have joined us. Thank you. The other day also we had someone. We have many people joining from Microsoft and Azure team. Then after Alan's session keynote, we have a session by Gokan. Gokan is going to talk about on how you can build bot in minutes using data with Microsoft Teams. And I have personally seen his session. His session is absolutely great, and he covers a lot in just about 25 minutes. And first two sessions are only for 25 minutes. Then after that, we have session by Gonzalo. And here's one thing: Gonzalo's session is going to be a recorded one. So we apologize for that. Gonzalo couldn't make it, but Gonzalo also works at Microsoft as a customer success engineer for data and AI, and he's going to talk about Azure SQL Managed Instance. We've had many sessions around Azure SQL, and the other day also we had Keynote by Anna Hoffman, who did share the vision of SQL, Azure SQL in journal, where that was, if you've missed it, just please register and we'll make sure that we share you all the recording links, individual recording links on your email. After that, we have a session on how you can become a troubleshoot rockstar with Azure Monitor. And this sounds absolutely amazing. It's by Rickard Oh. Rickard is a Microsoft Azure MVP, a cloud and DevSecOps architect, and is one of the partners for this event. So really looking forward for that session. Then we have a session by Abhishek Mishra. Abhishek Mishra is a C# MVP, and in this session you will get to learn Azure for Java developers. If you're someone who, I'm not sure which day it was, but Rory, who was actually a cloud advocate at Microsoft, he works at Microsoft for in the Java ecosystem. So yeah, Microsoft and Azure is very welcoming to the entire developers ecosystem. So in Abhishek's session at about 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, you're going to learn about Azure for Java developers, and that is hosting a Java Spring Boot application on Azure WebApp. Then we have a session by Ivan. Ivan, again, this session is also going to be recorded by Ivan. He's going to talk about monitoring infrastructure and services with Azure Admin Center on Microsoft Azure. All right. What else do we have? And after that, we take a break of about 20 minutes. And in those 20 minutes, we want you to go ahead and grab a cup of coffee, a tea, and then come back. I also need a break of at least 5 minutes. But you know what? I always have to start streaming a little early. So I have to come back a little soon always. Then we have session by Dennis. Dennis is again DBA, BI administrator, best on group and data platform MVP. He's going to talk about cloud security. Now, cloud security is something that many of you people showed interest while the registrations. We have over 70,000 registrations. Can you even believe it? We have crossed 70,000 registrations, and until now we have crossed over 90,000 unique viewers across all platforms. After that, we have a session by Ankit. Ankit is going to talk about on how you can use how you can build a multi-language translator using Blazor server and Azure Cognitive Services. The other day you did see from Shweta where did she talk about Azure Cognitive Services and then built a complete end-to-end project in just about 35 minutes. In today's session of Ankit, you're going to learn on how you can use Cognitive Services in Blazor applications. Blazor is going a lot. Microsoft is investing a lot in that field. Then we have full stack Azure architecture by S. Ravi Kumar. He's going to cover a lot in just about 25 minutes. And the final session of the day is by Ashirwad, who's going to talk about build event-driven workflows using Azure Logic apps. So the entire day is packed with sessions. And yeah, everyone who's watching us on Learn TV and on Microsoft Developers YouTube channel, the stream is going to end just after 1 hour. And there's a chat option on Microsoft Developers YouTube channel, but there's no chat option on Learn TV. So if you're watching us on Learn TV, on the right-hand side, you can find a link that says Azure Summit.live. You can click on it and follow along the rest of the session. Also, once you visit Azure Summit.live website, you get an option to chat over there. Having said that, it's time we go ahead and invite our keynote speaker of the day, Alan ONeill. Alan ONeill is a Microsoft Regional Director and holds and a lot of designation. I don't remember it. but never mind. Let's invite Alan to Cloud Summit 2021. Hi, Alan. Welcome to Cloud Summit 2021.
How are you?
I'm doing great today. How are you doing today?
Look at you. You've got all these neon lights and everything behind you.
Yeah, I thought to upgrade myself before I go live on this Cloud Summit.
Very good. Very good.
All right, Alan.
Good. I mean, you've got you've done some amazing work. You got some huge amount of people watching. It's pretty awesome to see how, and I'm going to touch on it later, but how from such humble beginnings, right? Not only has the online community that yourself, Mahesh, and the entire team has grown just in the last short 18 months or so, but how that all came from the humble beginnings of one guy deciding to share his thoughts and his passion about a particular type of technology, has turned into now how many thousand people are we at today?
We have crossed 70,000 people.
70,000 people. Like, it's one thing. I always think it's very cool. I write a lot of technical articles, and I talk at conferences, and I talk to business folk all week long. And I look at the numbers, right? The numbers are always cool, right? And I look at the numbers that rack up over a period of time, and I go, wow, my cumulative readers worldwide are like 6 million. I go, okay, but that's like 6 million over, maybe 20 years of writing and all this kind of stuff, right? And that's cool that you've impacted, those people, but that's gone, right? This is now, and stuff moves and stuff changes, and that's part of what I'm going to talk about. Is we're going to talk about joining the dots with Azure and how it affects everything. It's going to be a bad talk, right? But it's so interesting to me that this started with humble beginnings of one person deciding, I'm going to share my thoughts, and then suddenly today we have over 70,000 people. If we put them in a room, we wouldn't
put
have
them in a stadium. Put them in a stadium.
In a stadium, right? So I'd get out there with my electric guitar, and we'd have Dave there playing his thing, and God rest his soul if we had Squidhead, such an awesome engineer that we lost this year, a great friend of so many. He'd be there as well, and he's there in spirit, right? So I sit here today, and I'm absolutely in awe of what the community has done, what Mahesh has done as a leader of this community, and what you personally have done as a driver of this on the ground, because you're the face of this, Simon, right? So
lucky me, I would say, to be honest.
Lucky you. You should be proud. You should be proud of what you've done.
Hey, looking back, Alan, you just brought some memories. Looking back, if you remember, the very first small conference that we did was about 2 to 3 hours. That was called Public Speaking Virtual Conference, right? That's exactly time when the pandemic hit, and we were the very first one to go ahead and do. No one else was doing it. Live was a very new, and conferences, no one thought about it doing it live. And it has been a very well-paced, I would say, fast-paced, I would say, a journey of the past 18 months.
And it's also interesting, if you look back even at what we talked about on that particular show, we were talking about how to tell people do a better online talk.
Oh yes, I remember.
How to do this thing in this crazy online world, And back then I was giving all of these wonderful hints and tips about making sure you have lovely lighting and you have a clean background, and look at you have all these lovely curated things now in your background. You got the neon light, you've got the very well laid out shelves, it's all very mod and very wonderful. And then you look at me, I've gone in the opposite direction.
Yes, I was going to say that.
And I'm in the middle of my messy workshop, right? Because I got kicked out of my office. So
Oh my goodness. Are you still working on your boat?
I'm still working on my boat. That's
Oh my goodness, long
over
project.
here, yeah. So and it's interesting because, you know, one of the things that we do in engineering and in business is we realize that priorities shift, okay? And sometimes something happens and you have to say, okay, I'm going to park that thing for a while. And at the end of the day, it's very interesting because a lot of technology and engineering is like this, right? I can say that something that I'm doing right now, which I'm really excited about, which is my new company, which is Web DataWorks. We're doing some really incredible and amazing stuff with incredibly high volumes of data at scale. And the thing is, I had planned to do this about probably 15 years ago. Okay. But the technology wasn't there to do it, right? I had these dreams and these visions in my head that I just couldn't quite reach, okay? Because I didn't have the knowledge, I didn't have the skills, and more importantly, the infrastructure for doing these types of things at scale just weren't there. But so I parked that, right? And then over time, what I do is I say, well, look at those dreams or those visions or those wish lists that you had over the years and revisit them on a frequent basis. Because quite often what you'll find is that technology and circumstances have advanced sufficiently to allow you to revisit that thing. Yeah, and this is very much what has happened with my company. Suddenly, with machine learning and AI being effectively democratized, where now I can go in with Azure and I can go, you know, it used to be a case that I'd go, oh, new project, and I'd, oh, right, okay, where am I going to host my database? And I have to get some expert to do the security on that, and then I'd have to get somebody else to do this and somebody else to do that, and there was 100 different things that went on. But now I just go file new website, website, okay? I like that. All I have to do is let the creativity in my mind pour forth and bang. And it used to be the case that you had to be like, you know, an engineer to go and do this stuff, right? Now you don't, because I saw a crazy thing that came out of, I'm pretty sure it was somebody at Microsoft Labs about a year ago. And what they did was they went to a whiteboard and they drew just a really rough sketch of an outline of a website. And then they went to took a picture of this and they put it into a bit of Azure AI and they said, build the website. Oh my goodness. And it did. It did, right? And when you think about what actually happened there, right, it just took that image and it transformed it into a working website. So how do you do that, right? And, you know, 5 years ago, let alone 10 years ago, you'd be like, this is crazy. It's like Harry Potter. Anything that is, you know, sufficiently advanced that we don't understand, we consider magic, right? But the magic has actually come home. The magic is now today. And all we're doing is we're connecting the dots. And that to me is where Azure absolutely explodes and shines ahead of every other cloud. Look, I love the cloud. I love all cloud providers. They all do something awesome and everything else. But I in particular love Azure Cloud because it allows me to join the dots in a way that no other cloud does. It allows me to go from my IDE, from my development console, right? And just go do, and bang, the entire thing is there. It joins all the dots for me. It takes care of my security, my databases. It takes care of the UI. It takes care of the updating of the code. It takes care of the load balancing. It takes care of ensuring that I'm not going over my budget, all these different things, right? And that's absolutely awesome. So tell me this before I jump on, Stephen, how long more do we have here in this particular segment? Because I may share a few slides. You're actually on mute.
No, I was just checking if you can read my lips, but you failed me. You have about 15 to 17 minutes.
Okay,
more.
All right. Let's go then, and what I'll do is, awesome as it is talking to you, right? You know, somebody who's almost as handsome as I am. Let's talk very briefly about some of the things and the reasons why I think that Azure is awesome. Just give me one quick second here, and what I'll do is I will. I've got this new screen, and it's 49 inches wide. I know, it's crazy. It's like so big. I have to turn around to look at it, and it's like 227 inches together. But I only connected it to the day, and of course, as usual, I'm trying something new at the last minute. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just share this out now if it works. So let's do a quick share here. My apologies to everybody because you are guinea pigs.
I want to laugh, but I just try to control myself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we'll go in here, and if I do this as I'll actually, what I'll do is this. I'll make that there small, and I'll make this here big, and we'll do it a bit like a PDF is probably the best way to do it, right? So I'll go in and I will share this here. So are you getting it there now? Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So what I wanted to talk about briefly was kind of a couple of things. I'm pulling a few things together, and it's really about why, to me, Azure is awesome. And the key message of this is that I can just join all the dots together, and it just falls together. So we're going to start with the old days and a story. So my very first website, actually, my first encounter with the internet was probably in about 1996 or so. Yes, my hair previously wasn't grey. It was about 1996, and I built my first website in, I think, about 97 or 98. And back then, one of my employers, I was with an airline company, and we were focused on air cargo. And we had this cool idea of building a website for cargo air companies. So we went out and we got in some experts, and we asked them, how do we actually do this? And what do we need? Because we had no idea, right? We just knew that there was the internet. We needed a server. We needed some kind of connection to the internet. And then we needed to move these pages and this stuff on this thing called a browser. So the experts came in and they talked to us at length, and we went through, and it turned out that we were going to need a budget of probably about $2.5 or $3 million to put this internet website up and working. We were going to need to buy 3 great big, hugely fast Unix machines that were going to cost us about $50,000 each. We were going to need to build a special server room inside in our office to contain these. Now, we were lucky because we were based right in the center of Dublin, right beside one of the universities. And that university had one of the fastest connections to the internet at the time, which I think was something like 128 kilobytes per second, which is laughable now, but back then it was pretty huge. So for us to get a connection from our office to there was going to cost another 100,000 to dig up roads and to bring pipes down and everything else. And then beyond that, we had to worry about things like engineers who knew how to write this strange thing called HTML, and people who wrote in languages like Perl and PHP and stuff, which were very much as well in their infancy from a web production point of view. So all of that happened, and it was a reasonably successful project, but it was a huge project. It involved about 35 or 40 different people. The budget was in the millions. It took us nearly 3 years total to get the whole thing up off the ground, and it was absolutely massive. The difference is between then and now, if I have an idea for a website, I just go file new website, as I was saying to Stephen earlier. And that's absolutely mind-blowing that we've come from a time where we had to spend such huge amount of money, time, expertise, to now where anybody with a very basic understanding of internet technology can just go in the same way as file new slide or file new Word document, can just go file new website. It's absolutely huge. So the old days have moved on, and we have all of these incredible things these days. But back then, I want to talk about something else. This was the edge of my world. So back then, the edges of my world were the maybe 10 or 15 books that were present on my bookshelf. And of course, I had Barney Southstrup's C++ programming language reference book. And I had one on my favorite language at the time, which was Pascal, Delphi. And interestingly enough, the architect, the main engineer who put together Delphi, the language at the time, moved from then Borland into Microsoft, and he was then the father of the C# language, which we all know and love. And the point here is that back then, the limits of your knowledge, the edges of your world, were what you had on your bookshelf, and maybe what the person in the next cube or the next desk to you, what they knew. Okay, so that was the extent of your world. You knew nothing more, and you could do nothing more. And this is one of the reasons why people started going to technical meetups, technical groups, because they could maybe learn something new, they could learn about a new book, they could ingest something new, they could grow something bigger. The edges of our world are now so much bigger. The edges of our world are actually now wrapping the entire universe, right? Because instead of the limits of my knowledge being fixed to 5 or 6 books, my knowledge is now unlimited. So not only can I go in and can I find information on anything I want and expand out the knowledge that I have from an engineering point of view, but I can reach out and I can see how other people have done it. And critically, I can reach out to the communities of people who have shared things and continue to share things on a daily basis, like everybody here in this conference, and that expands my world. So my world is no longer this little small thing. My world is now expanded, and it is the universe. And that means that my opportunity has jumped up so much more as well. The language I know and loved back then, as I said, was Delphi. And I loved a little thing which delineated the start and the end of my world. And there were 2 words which were called begin and end. And that's what was used in Delphi or Pascal to hold together a particular function. We would say begin this do all the stuff, and then end. And my world was shattered when Anders Hellsberg came in and he said, no, we don't need that anymore. We'll just use these brackets. So why would you get rid of it and just use those brackets? It's crazy. And I resisted for quite a long time. And then eventually I caved in, and I decided to learn to love this C# thing. I didn't like the Visual Studio IDE. In fact, I hated it. I thought it was clunky. I thought it was wrong. Everything was in the wrong place. I wanted my nice Borland studio. I wanted my Delphi back. And the message from this is that things don't stay the same. Things constantly change. And of course, in engineering, things change all of the time, right? And if you don't change, you're dead. You got to keep moving, right? But if we stop and we allow ourselves to be entrenched and to stay with one thing all the time, we're not going to grow personally, we're not going to grow professionally, and we're not going to grow the entire universe of engineering. It's important to keep growing and to allow yourself to be open to learning all the time. I went to my first Azure conference in, I think, 2010. And I was sent by my bosses at the time, and they said, they're talking about this thing called Azure, and it's called the cloud. And you seemingly get all of your code and you move it into this thing called the cloud. And it's meant to be great and awesome. So the Microsoft folk are telling us that we need to move our stuff onto the cloud. Go and find out about it and tell us, are we ready for it yet? So I went to this Microsoft Azure conference in 2010, and I came away shaking my head and saying, this is too difficult. This is just, wow, this is going to never catch on, right? So I was like that guy in IBM who said there'll be never any more need for about 5 computers in the world, okay? I said, this will never catch on, this Azure business. It's too complex, it's too clunky, you've got too much heavy work. And I left it, and we continued what we were doing with our standard client-server architecture and our 3-phase implementations and everything else, and we just stuck with that, right? And then about 3 years later, up came the next Azure conference, and I said, okay, I'll go along now and see what's changed. And what happened was, I suddenly started seeing all this kind of stuff here. I started seeing things that were virtual machines that I could control from a desktop. I started seeing these and hearing about these things called containers, and hearing about how containers could be managed. And I didn't quite understand it, but as I started learning more about it, I suddenly realized and went back to something that I have known that I need to pulling back all the time, which is don't get stuck in the present. Always look back to what you tried to do a few years ago and see, has it moved on? And if it has moved on, well, then go and revisit the ideas you had earlier, because probably you'll be able to do them now. Okay, so join the dots. So when I went back the next time, and we look now at a conference about Azure now, we've moved from this type of thing, and now suddenly we have this type of thing, okay? The big message here is that when we go and we look at what I've talked about earlier on, which is the file new website, and previously we had nothing but this, now we have all of this individual gold, pure gold at our fingertips. Azure takes care of the security and management. It takes care of the integration. All of our data is there, ready to interoperate, not only with the different types and forms of data that we might have, be it structured or unstructured, but also connected in with intelligence. When did he ever think that we were going to have machine learning built into our database, where we can actually write some code in our database right beside the data, so we don't have to move our data out to a machine where the intelligence is and then move it back again, losing all of that speed and bandwidth and everything else, but actually having the AI built in to the database itself. Right? So these are concepts that we now have built into the very core of what we have in Azure. And the most important thing is that it's all interconnected, right? They have finally joined up the dots in a way that you don't get in other cloud services. In other cloud services, always seems to me to be very disconnected. Whereas in Azure, I sit down at Visual Studio Code or in my full Visual Studio environment, and I can drag and join everything together. I can build up an entire infrastructure with my security dealt with from Azure Directory Services right down to the connectivity with a multi-factor authentication, with a function that only comes up every now and again, with functions, right down to my AI popping in from the AI service when I need it. So I only consume what I need by joining together the dots. And there's never been an opportunity like what we have today. It's absolutely amazing. So the most important thing is think about what you want to do now. And if you can't do it now, revisit it in a few years' time, because most likely you will be able to. And always look to say to yourself, where is the lowest piece of friction? Where is the easiest way I can get from A to B? And usually it's through integration. And this is what Azure absolutely excels at from an engineer's point of view. We allow everything to be integrated from A right through to Z. And it's important as well to talk to the business folk, because the business folk need to understand the benefits of an integrated environment, not just from the point of view of engineering, but also from a business point of view. Because business needs great insights need great data. And those come from great integration. A business person can go to the likes of Power BI, and they, with Power Apps, can drag together a functional working application that they could not possibly have done a number of years ago. You can't do this with other platforms, and it's because of the integration. And that's the power of Azure. So never forget that Azure equals opportunity. So Azure now is your universe. Where I started out, and this was the edges of my world a couple of years back, this is now the edges of your world. There are no limits. So just remember how to connect things up. And finally, before I go and leave you with those random thoughts about joining the dots and connectivity, remember that none of this is possible without community, without inclusion. We need to include everybody. Just because somebody is different doesn't mean they haven't got something to say that's important. In fact, when you listen to somebody outside your own echo chamber, you will learn something and you will be enriched by it. So always be sure that you are courteous, that you encourage people to talk, and that you go and give back to the community that's given so much to us. So I'd like now to, again, thank all of the speakers who throughout this conference have given of their time. I'd like to thank all of our friends and colleagues in the online community, and Simon for pulling this together, Mahesh in the background orchestrating and managing it, and now hand back over there to Simon, who will give us a segue into our next speaker.
Absolutely great, Alan. How drastically the Azure architecture changed, right, from the first time you visited till 2001. I feel that if I don't go and visit portal like for maybe like couple or 3 days, everything changes over there. If not everything, there's always a slight change. I always have to figure out, no, this was over there and it changed over there. So things are changing very rapidly, and definitely, yes, we have to keep ourselves updated. Everything can be done. And one thing that I would definitely take from your keynote is always go back and see what you couldn't do in the past and then try to redo it, because maybe you now have skills, or maybe the experience, or maybe now the technology exists, and maybe you can crack it now, if not then. So I'll have to go back and check out some side projects.
Look, to get a pen and to go onto a whiteboard,
Yeah.
and to draw a wireframe and then say, build that website. That's Azure, baby.
All right, Alan, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. We'll see you some other time. Bye. Take care. Ta-ra.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, with that keynote by Alan, we now move to our next session. That next session is by Gokan. Absolutely amazing keynote by Alan. We now move to our next Microsoft region, like Gokan. Gokan is a rock star. He's going to talk about on how you can build bot from data, and that too with using Azure and Microsoft Teams. So let's invite Gokan to Cloud Summit 2021. Hi, Gokan. Welcome to Cloud Summit 2021.
Hello, Simon. How are you, my friend? Long time no see.
Yeah, long time no see. Look, we are branded black.
It is.
Gokan, I know, I always love your background for all that you have. People sometimes call it cartoons, and I just hate it. We're going to do chit chat towards the end of your session. So please feel free to go ahead and share your screen. I'm really excited about this bot thing that you built out of Microsoft Teams, right? I'm really excited. So
Sure.
Share screen and I'll add it.
There you go. The screen has been shared, my friend.
I see it. You're inside StreamYard. I now see your slides. Everybody else can see it. Next 25 minutes is all yours.
Thank you so much. Everyone, welcome to this session about from data to bot in minutes with Azure and Microsoft Teams. This session is actually for everyone within the Azure ecosystem, touching a little bit about the collaboration stack in Office 365. Today, what we have is a lot of legacy applications, a lot of legacy infrastructure, a lot of old classic way of doing stuff, and one of them is FAQs. Pages, tons of pages in SharePoint pages or HTML pages that actually I hate. Honestly, it's something that feels so old school that I once said I'd like to automate this. I'd like to have some bots, some intelligence within my Teams, within my SharePoint, within my XYZ. I don't know what the capabilities are, but let me check. And this session is all about that. It's all about how we can bring data into Azure and transform that data into something intelligent within Microsoft Teams. My name is Gokan Ozcifci. Ozcifci is quite complicated, but Gokan is more than enough. Principal at Neoxy, and since 2 months, VP of Global Partners and Strategic Alliances at Juno Internet. I'm a Microsoft Regional Director and MVP. And Simon, this is for you. I just got this like 2 weeks ago, and this is my C# Corner MVP award. I'm quite proud about this one as well. So I'd like to show this, and I'll be keeping it very, very close to me. So I only have like one slide because we have like only 25 minutes, and I'd really like to show you what the intelligence and capabilities are of the bot ecosystem within Azure and Teams. We will build a knowledge base within QA and that will actually take us a few minutes, and then build our first bot and then connect it to Microsoft Teams. I know 25 minutes is quite limited into time, but if we still have time, and if Azure doesn't give me strange issues, because since the morning I had some weird errors, then we will also see how we can build our first app in with Microsoft Teams and then publish that app across the organization. So that's the only slide. We will have our data into the knowledge base, push it to the bot framework, and then use it across multiple devices. That's the only slide. Honestly, Azure is all about demo. It's all about how you can use it. So let's go to the first thing. So everyone which wants to use a knowledge base, which want to bring actually knowledge into Azure, well, first thing you need to do is to come to QAmaker.ai. This is a cognitive service within Azure, and you can build a knowledge base after you sign in within that website. Just search for your tenant, and as you can see, I have one knowledge base which is here, which is called QAmaker. If I hit on that one, well, you will see that I have a bunch of questions. I have what is the best club in the world, where to upload my timesheet, how old is Gokan. I can even add more questions. I can just come here and say add Q&A pair, and I can say how sexy is Gokan's background, right? So that could be a question, not that very productive, but could be a question. And I can give a reply to that. Wow. This.
Can you zoom a little bit? Yeah, zoom.
Zoom like this?
Zoom in. Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Then you can just add some responses to that one as well. Then you can save and train your knowledge base. I'm just showing how the flow is working, and then we will definitely go into a deep dive how you can create all of that. I have a bunch of questions, and then you can easily come to Microsoft Teams and then open a new thread or use an existing one and then just chat with your bot and say, hey, my bot, how sexy is Gokan's background? And then the bot will intercept that question that you had. And I think I did a wrong thing. I did save and train, but I didn't publish. We'll need to publish the questions so the endpoint will be available for everyone. So save and train will only save and train the intelligence within the Q&A maker, and then you need to publish the newly added question. And now it says success. Now let's go on Teams and try it again. And let me just open my bot within Teams and then say Q&A bot, how sexy is Gokan's background? And now the endpoint back, and I can't type anymore. There we go. Gokan's background. And now the bot will actually go to the knowledge base, check for the questions I have inside. If he finds something similar to the question, then he will give the response that he has, like, wow, this is fantastic, right? As easy that it is, but how do you do that? So let's go into Azure and see how we can do something very easy like that. First thing first, you have to go on the Q&A-maker.ai and hit on create a knowledge base. Then you will see you have like 5 steps. The first step is to create a Q&A service in Azure. Second is to connect. Then you can name your knowledge base, populate that one, as well as give a chit chat. I will go through all of them. You need first to hit on creating a new Q&A service, which will take you to Azure, authenticate on the website, and now you will be able to create a new Q&A service in Azure. Let's do that just to show you how this is working. Well, you just select your subscription, you select your resource group, you can create a new one, you can use an existing one, nothing rocket science. I will be doing a resource group test Sept 2021. I'm giving a new resource, and then you can choose for the location. You can give a name. I will give it Summit 2021. There we go. And you can go for the licensing. Remember, you have one which is for free. Then you can use a standard one. You can only have one free subscription per tenant. So meaning that I cannot use another one for free. I have to pay for the second one. Then I can go for the standard one. Then you go for the search. You can search for. You can specify the location. Again, go for the pricing key, the name for the app service details, and then if you want, you can enable the app insights, yes or no. Basically, that's it. If I hit on review and create, now I can create that service, which is a Q&A service under Azure, and I can then go to the second step, which is here, connect the Q&A service to my knowledge base. This will take a few seconds up to minutes to create, right? It can even fail because, you know, I already have like one of those free, and I cannot, and I think I used another free for the search. But basically, this would be how you create the Q&A service. Then you need to hit on refresh on that side, on the second step. Now it will go and check for every Q&A service you have under Azure. And then you can select your subscription, and then you will see the one that I just created just before the session to make sure that everything is working quite well. Take the example that in your scenario, in your environment, you didn't have that issue of free subscription. You just select the standard one. You have your own Q&A. Then you go on step 3. You just give a name, Summit 2021. And this is like the most interesting thing that you will ever see in your life within the intelligent bot framework, is that you can pre-populate questions coming from docs, PDFs, XLSX. The bad thing with that is it doesn't take in consideration links, like a SharePoint link, which is so bad for me because I would love to input some SharePoint documents, SharePoint pages into that URL, but it looks like it doesn't still intercept. It was I'm not going to say an issue, but it's by design since 2019, and I know that the team is still working on top of that. But what you can do is basically go on the internet, search for a PDF file like this, I will just maybe make it bigger for Stefan. Like you have some URL, you just copy that, and then you can just add that URL here in, and then it will take every single question, every single paragraph, every single thing that he thinks would be actually suitable for a question into a knowledge base. And then finally, you can actually choose for a chit chat. Chit chat is actually some questions, professional, friendly, enthusiastic, that you can pre-populate your knowledge base. Like how old, remember when you have on Siri, you can just ask Siri a joke? Well, it has the same capabilities. It will fill in your knowledge base with a few of questions. I'm not choosing for anyone, and then you can easily create your knowledge base. This takes a few minutes, so I'm not going to do that. I will just go to my knowledge base, and I will select the existing one to show you on how it looks like. I have my Q&A maker. I have my questions. You've seen them. I can save and train and then publish them. But I will show you the other thing. Under settings, if I come here, remember I told you you can add some questions, is if I just hit that PDF coming from the Surface Pro, well, I can add this and then save and train. Now, it will take, as I mentioned, every question he thinks is valuable for you and add them under Microsoft, under the knowledge base. And if I now come under the edit section, well, remember I had like 4 questions. Now I have like 4 pages, and I can just go next. And you will see now I have a bunch of other questions, like Surface Pro 7. If I ask the question to my bot about Surface Pro 7, then it will give me that response. If I ask about October 2019, which I think is not that good, you can always modify this. This is still AI, so not everything is perfect. But if you hit October 2019, it will give you that response under the bot. You have the top features and benefits, power and performance. What I really like is on page number 2 is the technical specifications. Right? You can ask to the bot about the technical specifications, and it will give you that response as well as this. So let's save and train. Now, it will take all the questions that comes from the PDF under my knowledge base, and I will publish this. It's definitely, we need to publish it. I did forget on the first demo, my apologies. You need to publish it, otherwise the endpoint will not listen to the new questions. Now, it's a success. If we come back to our Microsoft Teams, there we go. And if I ask and I start a new thread and say, here, hey, and then ask to my bot, the Neoxy bot, there we go, the technical specifications, right? Now, the bot will go from the PDF, extract the text from the PDF, give it to me, and then it will even give me those keywords, and I can hit on that and say, okay, that's really interesting. I'd like to know more about the memory as an example. And now he will just go on that section, memory, as you can see here, and show me that memory response within my bot. With only a few clicks, I was able to upload a PDF file into my knowledge base and then get that data from my knowledge base. So when you have built your knowledge base, well, that looks fantastic. You have your knowledge base. Well, how do you make that connection to Microsoft Teams? Because now when you hit on publish, well, you just publish and it's under Azure. So you need to come to Azure here under the resource group. Well, you will see I have like an existing one, the Q&A maker. That one is the one that we just created a few seconds ago, but it failed because I could not use a second free. So we'll use this one, the existing one. And you will see I have a bunch of those services all available for you. You can use the application insight for actually knowing who did what and what was the response time, what was the server request that you got like for the last 12 hours, and how much actually connection you have with your bot. Well, you can see a bunch of them. But what's really interesting for me is actually the WebApp bot, this one, right? Whenever you're done creating your knowledge base, it will ask you to create the bot. And you will see actually 2 things, which is really, really great for you as an admin to build your first thing. Well, you can firstly check things if they're working great here. So you can definitely ask your questions here. How old is Gokan, right? And now it will just go to the knowledge base and check for the response, only 18, right? So that's working. And then I can see here under channels. And that's actually where you make the connection. As you can see, I already have a connection made to Microsoft Teams. Basically, it's very simple. You will see that the Microsoft Teams logo will appear here, and you can just simply click on the Microsoft Teams logo, just hit next, finish, and you will see that connection made here. If I open this, well, you will see that there is now a connection to my bot, and I can easily talk to my bot. I can say, hey, how old is Gokan? It will say only 18. Timesheet, please upload your timesheet just here as well. It is actually quite straightforward to publish your app into Microsoft Teams and say, okay, this is how I want to do it. But what's really interesting here as well is it is not only about Microsoft Teams. You can actually push those knowledge bases to Facebook, to Outlook, to Alexa. And what's really, really, really great for me is that you can even, and if I'm not wrong, I cannot see it here, but you would also have a connector, a new channel to Siri or to Alexa and say, talk to your knowledge base and say like, hey, how old is Gokan? And if you understand that question through your voice, well, then it will give you a response to any channel you want. It could be Microsoft Teams, it could be the web chat, it could be even Alexa, right? And that's where the collaboration can go, get rid of classic FAQs and say like, okay, now I have my questions, they come through a line, and I like to get answers from Alexa, from email, from Facebook, from Teams. Teams is quite important for me because it's still the place where I do a lot of stuff, but this is how actually you can do stuff. So then the question we had with the organization is we have our environment running, but we want to make this available to the whole organization. How you do that? Well, therefore, you need to go on the Microsoft Teams, and I will use the web version because Simon just told me it's slow for it's small for people, so I will use the web version so I can make it wider for everyone. I will just connect to Teams, and you will see that actually by default, if you go to the App Store, well, if I search for my bot, which is like the Neoxy bot, well, it is not available. It's not something that you could easily say, okay, I have my knowledge base, my bot is created, and as you can see under the chat, I can have a chat with my bot. I can ask them questions, but I cannot add them actually from the App Store. How should you do that? Well, for everyone who already built applications from Power App, from Power Automate, or even now with cognitive services under QAMaker.ai, well, you have the free tool of Microsoft, which is called the App Studio. If you hit on App Studio, well, now you can build new apps for Microsoft Teams. This has nothing to do with Dataverse, as I've actually shown a few months ago on how you could build no-code applications with Dataverse. This is like you build your app and you can make connections to Azure and other services. Well, this is the existing one, but easily how it works is you just build a new app. And then that's the most boring part of the story, actually, because you have to give a short name, you have to give a full name, you have to generate an app ID, give a package name, and so on, a description, and there we go. A lot of stuff for your application. But what's really interesting for you is the following: is this tab, the bots. You need to actually set up a bot for your app and say like, okay, I have my knowledge base, which is connected to my bots, and now I'd like to make an app and bring that connection to my bot. So basically, it is your knowledge base connected to your bot, that bot connected to your app in Microsoft Teams. And every single time when you will make a request, ask a question to that app, it will make a connection to your bot, and that bot will look into the knowledge base and see actually how he can get the responses from that bot. Now, if I hit on setup, well, you will see, hey, I can build a new one, or I can use an existing one. And if you use an existing one, well, it will directly go to your tenant and look for the bot that's existing for you. One thing that could happen, and it happened several times to me, is like he cannot find the idea, or the bot that you did create is not available for you. Like this Q&A Neoxy bot, I have no clue idea from where you get, because if I go under my Azure, and if I go under the resource groups, well, you will see that I only have like the RGL Q&A maker, which has one bot, which is the Neoxy bot. And if I come to the Summit 2021, which has nothing. So I don't know from where he gets that data and from why he shows me that data. So I had to look, and now I have to find it back. So I said, like, okay, I cannot select from the dropdown. What I will do is I will actually connect to a different bot. So I went to the Azure environment, and let me find the Azure environment. There we go. And I said, okay, I have my bots, which is here. I will hit on that, and I actually need the idea. And what I did first time was I just took this for idea, and I didn't really read what was actually written here. This is not the bot ID. This is the subscription ID. And you can go to the configuration and look for a bunch of stuff. And I said, okay, I finally found it. But again, it's not the app ID, it's the application inside ID. What I found is that the actually app idea from my bot is not stored in the application itself. And you need to go to the Azure Active Directory under the app registrations and find your bot. And what you can see is now I can see my Q&A Neoxy bots. I couldn't find that one into my resource group. It was not available there, but suddenly this one is available here. And what's really strange as well is, hey, I can see this one, which was created like 3 years ago, 2 years ago, but this one is still not available for me. So what I did is easily just copied that one, which is the idea, and then came back to my App Studio and said, okay, I'd like to connect. Oh, and I didn't copy it. So I will just copy it. And I said, okay, I'd like to connect to that bot. And now I have a connection made by my app. And I can say, okay, please use for the messaging and go for personal team and group chat, but I don't want to use you for calling. No calling bot. So this could be your bot. And if you hit on save, now you have an application that basically listens to your bot. And then you can go for the connectors, messaging extensions. I will skip all of those because it's only a 25-minute session. And I'm just watching the time. We only have like 10 minutes left. You can go for the languages, domains, and permissions. Don't ask me all about that. But what's really interesting now is the following one. If you go under Test and Distribute your app, which now listens to your bot, and the bot is connected to your knowledge library, well, you have 3 options. You can install, download, and publish. It gives you some errors. And don't get me wrong, this is Chinese for me. Like, this is so complicated to understand. But basically, it says, hey, my buddy, well, you have something that doesn't match. And what doesn't match is actually the app details. It asks a lot of information to you to build and to bring. Actually, I need to do 1.1, like something like that. Give a short description, give a full description, give a name, give a URL, test.com. And this could be like 10 characters, if I'm not wrong, maximum. There we go. I can just make test.com/privacy statement. And I can make a new one, HTTPS test.com, and now make it like the terms of use. You can choose for the logos and so on and so on. And now if I come here, it will say, okay, now you have an error because it's maximum 10. I think I did like 10. Oh, 1, 0, too much. There we go. And now suddenly, issues anymore? No, we still have some issues. Why doesn't he take in consideration? There we go. Come on. Up. Okay, now, fantastic. Now the error has just disappeared because it could be maximum like 10. I just remember it from other testing. So now basically I can take the app and say, okay, I'd like to install it. If you install that app, please don't hit on that button, please, but rather hit on that button. That button will actually give you the chance to add your application, which will listen to your bot, to a team, to a chat, or to a meeting. Easily go to a team and say, okay, I'd like to add that one to my test and say general Q&A test team. And if you hit on set up the bot, and please, the gods of demo, please be with me and don't fail. It's all about demo. And now, normally, I got the notification on my phone which says, Gokan, welcome. And now you see that I've connected my app to my bot. And now I could start a new conversation and say, hey, I'm going to get in my bot. And now, hopefully, that bot will be available here. And you can see, hey, the RZ3, well, which is not a famous name, but hey, I can select for that one and say, how old is Gokan? And now, what you will see, that hopefully it will reply. And there we go, the Neoxy bot did just reply, 18. Did you see it, how easy it was to build an app under Microsoft Teams with a few clicks? Just give a description, give an ID, just get that bot ID from Azure AD under the app registration, and that's it, voila. And now what you can do is the people who are behind the scenes, well, they can all come to the knowledge base and then add a bunch of questions, but a bunch of responses to the knowledge base. What happens now is the question that you could have is, okay, Gokan, I have my knowledge base, I have a bunch of questions, but what if something changes? Like, as you can see here, I have like a phone number, I have like an email address, a PDF can change. How can I make sure that the information is always accurate? Well, very simple. If you go under the settings, you will see that you have another option here, which is called refresh content. I can add a bunch of other links, and I can also hit on refresh content and then save and train. And now it will then bypass all the content under my PDF and say like, okay, I will then take the new data and update my knowledge base. Remember I told you that SharePoint was still not supported, and let me show you why I do say that. I'm under my Microsoft Teams and I go under Files. What you will see within Microsoft Teams that there is a partner program beta, and if I open this, well, you will see that there is a file with a bunch of text, and they're all very well written. Like if I just could ask benchmark competitors, well, it could give you this as response, which could make a lot of people happy. If I just take that URL, which actually could say, oh, okay, I'm going to my Q&A maker, and I will add a new URL. This is from SharePoint, right? Because you can see this is from SharePoint, which comes to my team, and it says, hey, Gokan, this is a doc.aspx. So it knows that this is a document from the office. It's not a PDF. It's not something else. It's a document. And you can just see the idea of that document, which is like this one under my tenant, and so on and so on. So if I add that URL, it is here. And if I hit on save and train, well, what you will see, the first thing is it will give me a pop-up and say like, okay, I like to go and get the data from SharePoint. If you hit on OK and say like, okay, that token can now go under SharePoint and get the data, it says unsupported invalid URL coming from SharePoint, which is, for me, the biggest drawback that you can have under Q&A-maker.ai. It is extremely easy to set up questions, to get data from PDF, to even get data from Word documents outside of SharePoint. But in a lot of organizations where I do a lot of work, we know that all the content is stored in SharePoint. All the record libraries, all the Word, Excel, PDF, and everything within the Office 365 ecosystem, don't get me wrong. With a bunch of organizations still have file service, a bunch of others still have a bunch of other engines like Jive to put their data. But people from, or organizations from the Office 365 environment, well, they all use SharePoint and OneDrive to put their data. And as you can see, that link doesn't work. And if I just go back here, well, I could easily say, okay, now I'd like to copy the link. And now the engine behind that is building a link for me. I'm copying that and coming back here again. If I delete this one and say like, okay, add this one, which seems to be quite different. It's like shorter, and it doesn't have that doc.aspx page. I'll add that one as well and say save and train. Now, again, it says invalid. This is a drawback. This is for me, and don't get me wrong, Q&A Maker has a lot of advantages and drawbacks, but the SharePoint side of stuff is actually very, very dramatic for me. What will happen if you don't like to have the questions coming from that PDF or SharePoint is you can easily delete them from here and then event train again. And what will happen now is it will save, train, and delete all the questions you had coming from the actually Word document. Now you can see I only have like 4 questions, and all the others about the technical stuff, they all disappeared. Let's make a test. I will publish this. So the questions are again available from the endpoint. Now all the other questions are now disappeared. If I come back to my Teams just here and say to the bot, again here, hey, I'm getting the bot from here, and say technical specifications. And now what you will see that the bot is actually not able to respond to that, and then it will say no Q&A answers has been found, which is normal because we just did delete that. A last thing to show you, because we have like 3 minutes left, is if you go under admin.teams.microsoft.com, well, as an admin, you can also take the app that you published under Teams, which listens to the bot and the Q&A. Well, you can come under the Teams apps and check for the apps you have in your organization. Well, I will search for my app just here. I will search for Neoxy. Well, you will see that I have my application, which is just here. And let me look if I can find, it was reg, something like that. No, as you can see, my app is even not available here, right? You cannot push the app to everyone. So what a lot of people will do, or the admin will do, is come to the App Studio, and then from the application you have here, well, again, under the test and distribute, you can download or publish this. If you hit on publish, well, it will check if it's possible to the admins to publish that app to the Neoxy Consultancy App Catalog. If you hit on that and you submit this, well, now I will just wait a few seconds until it publishes to the admin center. It's loading, and we have like 2 minutes left. Please, please, please. There we go. It has been submitted. I can view the status. I can submit an update here for, but what you can do is you can just come under the test and distribute. I will copy the name. There we go. If I come back to the app and maybe hit on refresh, which can definitely help, and search for that app, there we go. I now have my application being pushed from Teams to the admin center. If I hit here, well, you can see it has been submitted. I can definitely publish this and say this app is actually for everyone. Now it has been published, and I can come through the policies just here and say, there we go, on the global one, hey, you know, I have my apps just here. I'd like to add another one. And you could easily say, OK, I'd like to add my application, which is my bot. Herein, I will add this here. And now I will have Neoxy activity, my chat, blah, 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 and so on. And at the end, I will have my bot, meaning that now, from now on, I have my Neoxy activity chat, and the last one will be pushed through a policy, and I can see my app from here. Last thing, let me check here. So if I come under Teams and check to the app policy, let's hope that it has been published and I can see it. Oh, still not. Maybe we just need to wait a couple of minutes until we see the app appearing under the app catalog. I just did hit on refresh, so maybe we can see the app coming here, which is listening to my bot under Azure. There we go. And my app is now available into the store. And as an end user, as a potential end user, I can just hit and install that app. OK, very, very quickly, that was how you could actually get data from anywhere except from SharePoint, unfortunately, build your knowledge base, build your bot, publish that bot, and get that bot working on Microsoft Teams. So thank you so much for listening to me. I really hope that you have enjoyed this session. And let's connect. My Twitter handle is Gokan. I would love to get your insight, your feedback. As I know there is no Q&A at the end of the session, I would love to get your feedback and now how you feel. Thank you so much. Please learn with the event. Please progress and share your knowledge with the community. Simon, back to you.
That was absolutely great, Gokan. How much you covered in just about 25 minutes? That was like passing your seatbelts, and there's a Gokan session coming up there. By the way, thanks for that award. While you show that award, let's both of us show awards to everyone. Yay!
There we go. Fantastic.
Gokan, we have one question before maybe you like to answer. It's a very generic one. It's about the subscription, right? So, for instance, I have a Microsoft Teams, right?
Yeah.
And I don't have an Azure, so I can get a free Azure account. That's not a problem. What does that solve the purpose? I can go and build a bot with that. Is that okay?
You need to have an Azure subscription for doing stuff. You can make a trial account, use it for 30 days, but then you will see with the free tier that I did use for the bots, you have a bunch of limitations, a lot of limitations. At a certain moment, when you go for an enterprise, you need to go for an upgrade of that, unfortunately.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, free is free. It's meant for testing. All right, Gokan, it was really nice connecting with you. What do you have up there above your shelves or top? I'm always interested in your background.
That's the best part of the event, right? That's seeing my shelf behind me. A collector, I'm calling myself.
All right, Gokan, thank you so much. It was absolutely amazing hosting you. Any final thing you want to plug in before we move to the next session?
Enjoy the conference as much as you can, because knowledge is the power of tomorrow. And today, thanks to Simon and all the other peeps at the community, you get that knowledge for free. So enjoy as much as you can.
All right, thank you, Gokan. Have a nice day and see you soon. Bye. Take care. All right, with that absolutely amazing session by Gokan, I always enjoy hosting him. We now move to the next session, but before we do that, this session was live on Learn TV, Microsoft Learn TV, and on Microsoft Developers YouTube channel, but we're going to take a break from there. The stream is going to end there, and it will only be available on Azure Summit.live. So yeah, I'm going to quickly play a video, and after that video ends, the streaming will stop on Microsoft Learn TV and on Microsoft Developers YouTube channel. So please visit Azure Summit.live to continue watching this summit. I'll take a quick 1-minute break and then I'll be back.
Hi, I'm Anna Hoffman.
Hey friends, I'm Nikolai.
Hi, I'm Mustafa Roman.
Hi, I'm Tanya Janka.
Hello.
And I'm excited to be the speaker at Azure Summit 2021.
It's a fantastic event that will be 11 days live streaming,
where more than 100 speakers from all over the world.
I'm excited to speak at Azure Summit about Power BI and Synapse Analytics.
And I'm going to talk about security.
And also a Microsoft MVP for Azure.
I'm speaking at Cloud Summit about automated release of .NET application.
And the best part is that this is a free event.
Come join me live at Learn TV on September 17th.
Come join me live on Learn TV on September 14th.
Come join me on Learn TV on the 14th of September this year.
A bunch of other Microsoft and community speakers.
So if you want to learn how to secure Azure, come to my talk.
Join us, it will be a lot of fun.
See you there.
See you there.
See you there.
See you there.
All right, I am back for the next session. It's by Gonzalo. Unfortunately, Gonzalo cannot make it, so we won't be able to take any Q&A after this session. But please enjoy this session by Gonzalo, who's going to talk about Azure SQL DB Managed instance. And next 30 minutes is all about SQL.
Well, we are done now. So hello, everyone. Welcome to this amazing event, the Cloud Summit based on Azure. I am very happy to be here. So thank you very much to Simon and the entire team for doing an amazing job organizing this event. Honestly, you have the best speaker in the world, like 10 days talking about different solutions in Azure, different technology. So thank you very much for allowing me to participate here. Today we are going to talk about my favorite service, which is Azure SQL MI. I will try to cover as much as I can, in order to answer, for example, this question, which is, hey, Azure SQL MI is different than our normal SQL server. I mean, I received that particular questions a bunch of times, and I will try to answer that question. First of all, I will introduce myself. I am Gonzalo Bissio. I am based in Buenos Aires, Argentina. I am working at Microsoft as a customer engineer for Latin America, US, and Europe customers. I am Microsoft certified training, among other things. The most important thing is that you have my blog, my contact, my Twitter. Feel free to reach out to me in case that you need anything. Today we are going to talk about different things or different flavors of Azure SQL MI, such as introduction or what is coming, migrating, among other stuff. Again, if you have any questions, just feel free to send me a question or email or whatever. I will try to help you as much as I can. Different options on the Azure SQL family. Obviously here, you have also the option to host your database in VMs. But also you have, for example, Azure SQL database, in where you will have a single database. The good thing is that you will have a bunch of benefits, such as that you will not have to patch your database. You will not have to migrate your database. It's a single effort in where you migrate your database to Azure SQL database, or you create the database directly and you can start the project and you just forget about migrations, which is amazing. You just need to change the compatibility level to get the latest features. Then you have Elastic Pools, in where you share the resources among all of the databases that exist inside the Elastic Pool. And the latest one, my favorite in the world, Azure SQL MI, in where you have some limitations in Azure SQL database that will be fixed, I would say, in managed instance, such as cross-database queries. Jobs, you can have jobs directly. You can use, for example, Leak Server for the replication lovers. You can use replication as a publisher, distributor, or subscriber. Thinking of Azure SQL MI, it's like thinking on an instance or an infrastructure as a service or on-premises instance. So, it's amazing how many benefits you have using Azure SQL MI. Well, it's a fully managed service. It is the same as Azure SQL database. It's built on the same infrastructure. You will have the same benefits, such as automatic backups. Obviously, the performance, the cost, everything is the same. Some limitations that managed instance will not have. My favorite, obviously, is that you can execute backup restores just to migrate the database. For example, let's say that you have your on-premises or your infrastructure as a service database, and you want to migrate it to managed instance. Well, for you, it will be a single backup and restore, and that's it. The entire security features will be available here. The one that I mentioned about the jobs, replication, DMBs. Another amazing feature that I love, which is query store and automatic tuning, will be enabled by default. For automatic tuning, only the option to force plans will be enabled. Before, I remember that create index was enabled, but starting April last year, if I am not wrong, the single option that you have to or enable in automatic tuning is just to force the plans. Yes, fully compatibility with SQL Server 2005. I mean, if you want to backup and restore directly a backup from SQL Server 2005, you can use it. Important thing, be careful because the data migration assistance will deprecate SQL Server 2005, so be careful with that. And obviously, if you want to migrate directly from SQL Server 2005, you will have to use compatibility level 90, which is the latest for SQL Server 2005, so be careful with that. Compatibility, honestly, is almost 100% with on-premises. I mean, the feature that I know, or the features that I know that are not supported are file stream or file tables. The new in-memory TMDB tables are not enabled here because you need to restart the instance. That is why you will not be able to enable that feature here. Another amazing improvement or amazing feature that Managed Instance has is that by default, the service is close to internet. So you don't need to worry about the service open to the internet. I mean, Azure SQL Database by default is open to internet. I know that sometimes we have security regulations that doesn't allow us to have services open to internet. Well, if you want to host your database on this service, the connectivity will be closed by default, which is awesome. Obviously, if we are talking about internal connectivity, that means that you will require site-to-site VPN or an express route connection in order to connect directly from inside Azure. So talking about authentication, we have Azure Active Directory and SQL authentication. Important thing, if you are migrating your application from on-premises to infrastructure as a service, and you want to use Azure SQL MI, you need to know that Azure Active Directory is supported, not Windows authentication. So very important to know that, first of all, you need to use the latest driver versions, OLEDB, ODBC, or the one that you are using in order to support this authentication. You can use some entities called managed identities in order to authenticate using Azure Active Directory. Or you can use users or service account, but directly in Azure Active Directory. Or you can use the old one, SQL authentication. It's up to you. But the most important thing is to know that Windows authentication will not be enabled, so be careful with that. The VNet support, the one that I mentioned before about closing the connection from the internet or to the internet, sorry. Here you have some examples, but the good thing is that in case that you want to connect your own service to Managed Instance, you will have to use the VNet peering in order to connect to different subnets. Size options, we have general purpose, we have business critical. Obviously here we can use only vCore. We can't use DTUs because DTU don't exist here. So you can use only vCores. Differences between general purpose and business critical. Well, first of all, as you can see here, we are not using local storage. We are using Azure storage accounts in order to use as a storage. So you will have good performance, but in business critical, you will have local storage attached, which means that you will have better performance in business criticals in terms of IOPS. Another thing is that the IOPS depend on the size of each of the files of the database. So if you want more IOPS, you will have to increase those files. So be careful with that. Besides, the TMDB size is or depends on the number of vCores that you choose. for the general purpose, obviously for your service, among other differences. I mean, I just want to mention some of the differences. Important thing is, I mean, for example, Gonzalo, I have my server in on-premises, which is using 8 cores and 128 gigabytes of memory. Can you have the same here? The answer is no. You can choose vCores, but you can't choose a fixed size of memory. So be careful with that. Read the documentation and see, okay, based on the number of vCores, I have, for example, this memory. The same for the size of the storage. For example, hey, Gonzalo, I need 48 cores, let's say. But that will be tight, obviously, on the size of the database. What else? No, not too much to mention here. Well, one more thing to mention is about the high availability. By default, the service is protected with some active compute nodes, obviously, the one that are running right now the service, but also you have some redundant pools or redundant nodes inside the pool, in where if something happened to any of these active compute nodes, automatically the redundant node will come up, there will be a small failover, and that's it, and your service will continue working. Another difference with business critical is that by default, an availability group is built when you choose this service, and you can have, for example, reads on the secondary. This will be free. You need to pay anything extra in order to use this secondary replica. Or you have the primary replica and that's it. How can you enable this? Well, you need to use the famous application intent read-only and use a database or initial catalog in order to connect to the secondary and execute your reads. Or you can use the primary and that's it. You will have 2 exact machines. But what if something happened? Well, automatically there will be a failover from the primary to one of the secondary, meaning that there will be a downtime, but small downtime, because you're moving from one node to another one. As I mentioned before, the storage is attached directly to the node. You are not pointing to a remote blob storage. The TempDB now is sharing the max storage size that you choose for the instance. And so you will not be using, for example, the limit of the, I mean, you are not going to share this with the number of vCores as it happened in general purpose. Another difference is that, well, now in general purpose, there is a public preview of 16 terabytes that you can extend your service, but the maximum is 8 in general purpose and 4 in business critical. And now the IOPS are based on the number of vCores. It is not based on the size as it happened on general purpose. Backups are automated. Yes, I mean, you don't need to worry about backups. This will be handled by Microsoft. So you don't need to care about who is doing the backups. In case that you want to do backups because you need, let's say that you have a regulation that you need to save your backups locally, well, you can execute backups using copy only to a blob storage. Then you can download that particular backup from the blob storage, and then you can save it to the device that you have on your own data center or where you need to download. Important thing is that you can set up the backup retention. The default is 7 days, the minimum is 1, and the maximum is 35. Since a couple of months, we have long-term backup retention in Azure Sql DB, so it's in public preview, but in case that you need to save your backup up to 10 years, you have the option. Obviously, there will be more cost, but at least you have the option. High availability, I already mentioned the one that is built by default, but also you can configure, for example, auto-failover groups, which will allow you to have high availability between different regions For example, you want to have your primary in East US and you want to replicate that to West US, well, you will be able using out of failover group, which is in GA, which is awesome. Here you have the topology, how this will work. We will have primary and secondary region, as you can see here. Replication support. I know that, I mean, there are a bunch of people who loves transaction replication. So you have here, you will see that on the site, this is still in public preview. So be careful with that. I mean, just in case that you have, for example, internal limitations that you can't have any features in GA or in public preview in Pro. So be careful with that because it is still in public preview. But at least you know that you can use it. For example, if you have any requirements that you need to, for example, replicate data from Azure Sql MI to on-prem or IaaS, well, you can use replication in case that you need to move data. Obviously, you can use data factory or integration services, but also you can use replication in case that you need. You have that option as well. Service broker, database mail, features that we normally use in on-premises or IaaS. Another very good thing of the cloud is that you can scale up or scale down this service. Important thing, just to let you know that creating or scaling up vCores in Azure SQL MI can take time, or if you are, for example, migrating from general purpose to business critical, that will take time because we are building new infrastructure in parallel. We are synchronizing and copying, and when this process finishes, there will be a failover. That will be the real downtime, even though the operation takes, I don't know, 1 or 2 or 3 hours to complete. The real downtime is once the synchronization finishes, automatically the process will close the connection, will create the failover, or will execute the failover, and will update the connection string, etc., etc. I mean, internally we have different gateway rings that will manage this connection and will redirect the connection from the clients to the correct host name. So I mean, all of that process should happen before the failover finishes. So that is why you will see that downtime. But that's it. You can quickly scale up or scale down, even though the process takes time. But at least you have in case that you need, you have the resources to do that. Another amazing feature is instance pool. It's similar to Elastic Pool, but instead of sharing databases, you are sharing instances. For example, let's say that you need to share different instances for different projects because you are using managed instance in dev environment or in staging or in performance or whatever you're using. In case that you need to share and you want to pay as a fixed number of vCore instead of different services, well, you can use instance pools. Instance pools will give you the flexibility of have different instances and share those instances between different teams. For a dev environment, for example, you will only pay, for example, 16 cores, as you are paying here. But internally, you will have multiple instances, as you can see here. So all of them. This is amazing in case that you want to save some time and money. News and what is coming. Honestly, I am seeing a bunch of improvement to this service. Honestly, I mean, 2 weeks ago, if I am not wrong, 1 or 2 weeks ago, the extension for Azure Data Studio was released in order to to do quickly migrations from or using Azure Data Studio. But all the time I am seeing improvements, new things in Azure SQL MI. All the time the team is doing an amazing job releasing a bunch of stuff. Much more are coming, honestly. That is why I'm so excited about this service, because I think that Azure SQL MI is a feature in where you will be able to host your database, forgetting about simple stuff, as I mentioned before, such as migrations, such as, for example, a bunch of companies are not using managed service accounts, and you need to, every 6 months or 1 year, to rotate the password. Well, you will forget about that as well. You don't need to patch this instance. It will be almost 100% compatible. So, I mean, honestly, this is one of the best options to host your database. One recommendation I would say, because I talked to different customers about this, is that an advice I would say is that if you are thinking on migrating your application, I will recommend to migrate the application from on-premises to Azure besides the database. I mean, if you're going to move something to the cloud, move everything. If you have, for example, reports, if you have reporting processes, if you have interfaces, if you have the application, move everything to the cloud, because everything will work together on the same ecosystem. If you are planning to use, for example, Azure SQL MI as your, I would say, reporting database destination, and you want to move data from on-premises, I would recommend to configure a landing zone, such as, for example, blob storage or data lake, and from there insert the data, for example, using Data Factory. Because if you want, or if you try to connect directly this service to on-prem, you need to know that you are going to use, for example, you are going to use the network. It will take time to, I mean, to go from the source to Azure SQL MI using the network. So my recommendation will be moving everything from on-prem to the cloud. If you can't, before connecting everything, I mean, from the source to the destination, I would recommend to export the data to blob storage, or again, or to Azure Data Lake, and from there import, and that's it. So talking about what is coming, well, you have all of the links. All of the links and information are there. A very interesting thing is this one, log replay services, in case that you want to migrate Azure SQL MI from on-premises or infrastructure as a service, and you don't have too much time to migrate, or a huge migration window. Well, log replay services is an amazing service that will help you to deliver this migration. And talking about migrations, here you have this link on where you will have different data about how to migrate. You will have the entire guide. Let's say that you are migrating SQL Server to Azure SQL MI. If you click here, you are going to see all of the consideration, best practices. I mean, you have a bunch of data here that you can read and you can follow in order to execute our migration. And you have different scenarios, services, etc., etc. Different methodologies. I mean, I know that every time that you need to migrate, I mean, for me, it's funny to say that every migration is a new story. You know, every time that you are migrating a system, you can have different things to say or to tell. You know, for me, it's I mean, the migrations are different experiences to me. Some good experiences, some not good experiences, but I always learn from the migrations. So talking about migrations, if you are migrating, for example, from SQL Server, you can use the data migration assistant. Be careful because one of the latest version is deprecating SQL 2005, as I mentioned before. When you run the assessment, this will give you, if you have any breaking change, meaning that if you migrate and you change the compatibility level to 150, you will have issues, but this will assess your database. In the meantime, if you want to, for example, to test your workload, you can use the database experimentation assistant in order to see if you, if you improve your workload or not, or if you need to improve some queries before moving to Azure Sql MI. Obviously, again, you need to test everything. My recommendation will be test everything before moving to Azure Sql MI. Then how to migrate? Well, we have the Azure Database Migration Service, but also you have other options as well. You can just backup and restore, and that's it. Or you can use this service. You can use the log replay services, as I mentioned before, in order to migrate or to move to Azure. Limitations, I would say, based on my experience, I would say that one of the limitations is file stream or file tables. Because I have some projects that were not able to move forward to use this service because they were using that instead of using, for example, blob storage or data lake in order to save files or to upload the files. But for my case, I was not able to move forward because of that. Well, as I mentioned, the in-memory TMDB, if you are using SQL 2019 and you want to use that feature, it will not be available. Some issues in case that you have any particular issue, you have the site in order to see whether this is a known issue or not. For the trace flag, for the people that love trace flag, some of them are supported. You have the entire list on that link, or the roadmap in case that you are interested in know what are the new things coming. You can use this link in order to see what are the updates and improvements made on Azure Sql MI. Questions, as I mentioned before, you can send me an email directly to me in case that you have any question, or if you have any concern, or if you have any issue or anything on your service, just feel free to send it to me. I will be more than happy to help you. And again, thank you very much to Simon. Thank you very much for to the entire team for allowing me to participate here. I am very happy to be here, honestly, again. And thank you guys. Thank you for your work. Thank you for the attendees for being here. And again, in case that you need anything, just feel free to send an email to me. Bye-bye.
Life in operations. It's a mix of planned and unplanned work. Operators frequently find themselves getting interrupted with an endless stream of tickets, often for doing the same things over and over again, and those tickets are often escalations to yet another team. Resolving these tickets leads ops teams to searching documentation and runbooks, looking for steps to complete routine procedures. Hopefully, the docs are up to date and the operator has access, and they don't make a mistake. And of course, that the business can afford to wait. Wouldn't it be great if there was a better way? What the operators really need is their runbooks to be automated. Here's where Rundeck can help. Rundeck by PagerDuty is a leading solution for runbook automation. Customers use Rundeck to delegate automation to the right people in the organization. Now users get self-service access to operations that previously only subject matter experts could perform. Rundeck automates IT workflows and processes, replacing the previously manual procedures found in documentation. Rundeck doesn't replace existing automation. It makes existing automation, scripts, and commands more secure, auditable, and safe to run. Rundeck is a central hub for automation, connecting key tools and infrastructure and operations workflows. Rundeck helps teams resolve incidents quicker, avoid interruptions, and get more done, all while ensuring things are locked down and remain compliant. First responders are empowered to resolve incidents themselves instead of escalating, minimizing disruptions and reducing outage time. Operators become more productive. Developers stay focused. IT users can solve problems for themselves with the click of a button. Rundeck customers regularly see 60% shorter incidents, escalations cut in half, and 15 to 20% increase in productivity. Sign up for a demo today.
Hi everyone, my name is Holly Lehman. I am a product marketing manager on Microsoft Teams, and I am so happy to be a part of the Cloud Summit 2021 Azure Focus. So Azure Focus, you're probably wondering why I'm here. Well, as we're going to talk about today, you are in charge of managing your own career. And when I had the beautiful opportunity to join you today, I was sitting in engineering as a program manager on Azure. But like everything else, things changed, and I'm so excited to tell you how my career changed, what I input, how I drove my passion, and hopefully I can help you with your next steps in your career. So let's go. Manage your career with passion reimagined. What in the world does that mean? Well, let's talk about it. So quite often we apply for a role and it sounds really fun. It sounds right what we want to do, right up our alley. And we start the role and we find out maybe it's not exactly what we thought, but that doesn't change who you are. You applied for this role because of your passion, because of your talents, because of your skills. So how do you influence your role for the positive, and how do you drive your next steps in your career? So when we think about my own personal example, my background, believe it or not, I worked in an administrative side of the world for law enforcement. Sorry, you guys, I have a dog in the back. I apologize. I started, 8 years in law enforcement, working at a jail, working at 2 police departments, and I loved it, to be honest. What did it teach me, though? What did I walk away with? So I learned attention to detail. I learned how to follow policy, procedure. I also learned what I missed. And I missed people, and I missed having fun and engaging with people in a way that made me feel good. So I moved my career and went to hospitality. I worked at almost every front of house department you could think of, and I loved it. But I also was able to bring with me the skills that I learned from my previous role to my advantage. So the attention to detail was great. Ability to define myself in ambiguous situations was great. But now I'm in hospitality where everything's ambiguous. How do I show up differently? So I learned that being really busy and taking on a variety of projects was what I enjoyed. I found almost a calmness in chaos. So part of my career led me to being one of the first people to open one of the resorts in Vegas. And that's where, without even realizing it, I got my PM hat on. I took on a number of departments, a number of different projects, working with a number of different people in all different facets. And now moving forward, here I am, Seattle, Washington, working in Microsoft. I felt so blessed, but I also felt like I didn't belong. What in the world was I doing here? But as I grew in my career and I found that there was a need and a want for community engagement, we have this beautiful group of humans, customers, partners, MVPs, who need a bright personality that wants to drive chaos, be in events, pull people together, get people in a room chatting. So what I would say to you is, what defines you? How do you show up differently in your job when you realize what your passion is? And how did I define my role? So within Azure, my role changed just like every other role does. And I realized I missed community so much. So with a friend, we thought about starting up the North Star Partner Program, and I woke up excited again. I got to talk to all these amazing humans in technology from all over the world and share their story. That was what I was passionate about. I also fell into COVID just like everybody else. Our world's changed, every single one of us from around the world. And that change was positive. It made us think outside of the box. It made us look at our job differently. How do we show up every day in our home, doing our job to the best of our ability in this completely different world that happened overnight? Well, what's that moment going to be for you? What's that moment going to be for you where you decide to look at your job differently, where you decide to show up differently? You code, you create, you program, you develop, you test, but what else do you do? How do you want to show up differently and innovate your role and bring others along your journey to have passion for what you do every day? And how does that passion help you move your career along the road? I had to realize what I missed, what I learned, what I liked and what I didn't like. But what I knew I loved was community. So fast forward, because of this crazy situation called COVID, I feel like a lot of us started to look for the socialization opportunities on social platforms. It might be GitHub, it might be Reddit, it might be LinkedIn, it might be Facebook, whatever it is for you. But for me, I found a dear friend through the MVP community and became quite close to Isadora Ketenique. Together, we talked about our love and our passion for the community that's out there. Not just MVP, but MVP, partner, and customer. We wouldn't be where we are without each one of these communities and what they're driving for us and our services and our products. Their feedback, their investments, their thought process about how things work or why they don't, or what we need on a day-to-day basis to make our working style even better. So after we did a funny TikTok, just for fun, and we learned that people were laughing, whether they were laughing with us or at us, we didn't even care. We knew that people in the community were coming together. That led us to the idea, maybe it'd be fun to do a video series. People miss each other. That's our passion. People, community, driving unity and collaboration. And so after a lot of thought, we had this great idea and we looked for the opportunity where we could drive people together, sharing positive stories in the tech community and their passion for community through a video series called Head in the Cloud, Heart in the Community. In this event, sure, I had to partner with someone who balanced me. What did Izzy bring? What did I bring? How could we partner together in a way that made us both succeed and the community succeed? If you're thinking of something that you're passionate about, you don't have to partner with somebody, but truly do some self-reflection into where your strengths lie, where you can grow, and how you can take what you love and integrate it, weave it in to your career. I promise it's only going to make you stronger. So what drives your passion? You know, there's a lot of people in tech that have amazing talents outside of coding, creating, programming, developing, testing, things like that. For some people, they love writing. They love inventing. They love the engineering piece of it without the coding piece. They want to provide something to the community, to educate, to drive. What is it for you? And what do you need to do to really succeed? You know, in our venture for Head in the Cloud, Heart in the Community, it was understanding, what do we need from each other? Let's really be methodical. Let's plan this out. What do we want to land? What is our goal that we want to achieve? What are the logistics of it all? She's in Switzerland. I'm in Seattle. For you, you need to think about, is it your imposter syndrome? Is it your own voice telling you that you can't do it, but we all know that you can? A better writer. Whatever it is, take the time to really look at yourself. I'm sorry about Poppy. And really it's going to be harder for you when you walk into a male dominated room and speak. But that's okay, because I'm showing up as who I am. And when you show up who you are and you're not trying to fit into this mold or this reflection of what people think, you're going to show up stronger and more confident. And you're going to know that you're showing up because this is your skill. This is your passion. This is your talent. And you want to share it with everybody in the room. How do you show up every day? Are you showing up as yourself? Are you showing up as who you are day in and day out? I would ask you to really think about it as you think about your career growth down the road. Why is integrating your passion important? Well, when my role changed and I didn't have the community impact that I loved, I realized I wasn't as excited. I wasn't as motivated. I wasn't as eager. And those feelings made me really wake up and think, what can I do today to integrate a piece of work into my job that will not only bring a business strategic benefit, but also bring personal benefits to myself and do what I love, impact the community. When we thought about head in the cloud, heart in the community, the last thing I thought about was how it would integrate with work. But when I thought about how we can pull our partner stories and share it with our engineering team, drive feedback from these incredible humans who are eager to share technical feedback, I loved it. I connected with people all over the world. I was able to really share what people want to do, is to talk about the tech and do it in a way where we get to showcase the work that these amazing humans are doing. When I thought about head in the cloud, heart in the community, it had nothing to really do with Azure or my day job in specific. But you know what it did do? It's diversity and inclusion at its finest. You didn't have to be a Microsoftie. You didn't have to work in a certain technology. You didn't have to live in a certain area. And it was a way of driving customer, partner, MVP stories and advocate for diversity and inclusion, which that's what we all care about right now. We need to lead with empathy, drive what everybody is striving for, which is respect for one another, a kindness, and bringing people with you on your journey. When I approached my manager about both ideas, he loved it. Sure, I had to prove it. Sure, I had to do the work. But if you're willing to do the work and do the research, you're going to love the outcome. You're going to feel impactful, and you're going to know that you are driving your career today, tomorrow, and for the future. Now, for those of you that were wondering, what in the world does this have to do with Azure? My goal in this session was to make each one of you feel a little better, a little stronger. Look at your passion, not just a job description. Look at what you want to go after and how you can think outside of the box and bring something different into your day job. And what does that look like down the road? What can you create? What is your love and your passion? And how can you partner with others? How can you create with others? And how can you show up more differently every single day? I want to see everybody that is listening show up with a newfound passion, your health better, your heart better, a sense of confidence, and a love for what you do.
Troubleshoot. You need to know all the levels of your application and all the sub-levels when you troubleshoot. Let's take a look at some Azure Monitor scenarios. What we see here on the picture is actually my favorite 100. You can you can use alerts that trigger on monitoring issues, but you can also sort of see alerts from your whole organization. So you can do this at scale. So let's say, for example, that my application is behaving well, but if there's something
or any Java-based developments. So I use a lot of VS Code while doing any Java developments at work. Okay. Let me clone it. Cool. It was super fast, and so like if you see, we have this DS Spring Boot that got created. Let me get into. Let me make it a bit bigger also, so that you guys can see it. Okay. We get into this folder. There will be a completed folder there. Do a dir. You can see a POM file here. Let us see or explore this POM file. So if you are from Java background, you must be knowing, right? Maven. Okay, Maven is a packaging utility that we use to package all our application, like all our application binaries or application packages, and create a final deployable package that we take and host it in our target environment, right? For Java applications. And this Maven or this package management tool, it uses a file called as a POM file that is called as package object manager, I believe. I need to recheck that. So like the POM file, it will have all the definition of whatever the packages that we are going to use and how we are going to build it, and what would be the name of your package and all. So let me just quickly show it to you, but Java aspects I'm not covering, so we'll just focus on the Azure part. Okay, let me reduce this. You see, this is how your POM file looks like, and you can see it has added a lot of packages, the dependencies, like your application will be depending on the Spring Boot framework and a lot of other dependencies that have been added. We have a plugin, Maven plugin, that we'll be using for Azure. And also, let me show you the code that I'll be running. Let me get into hellocontroller.java. And you see, like when I'll be running my application, or I would be invoking my application, I'll get greetings from Spring Boot. Okay. So now, as a next step, let me configure this application so that I'll be able to host it. Okay. So for that, we need to run this command. It's a Microsoft provided configuration. So in mvn com.microsoft.azure : this Maven plugin name and the version, and it will put all necessary configurations in the POM file that will help us in hosting the application on Azure. Like it will add all necessary targets, your hosting environment definitions, like what would be the subscription, Azure subscription, your resource group, your web app size and all. So let it complete. See, now it has started asking. So what kind of environment it would be? I would say I have a Windows based web app. So I'll provide option one for Windows. I'm going to do a Java 11. So I'll do information of Java. I need to do subscription
type of scenario, such as monitor and service and protection resource, and even better, the constant updating and administration service. Here we have the different service offered by the Windows Admin Center tool, and that we can download and install in our main Windows Admin Center console. Azure Backup, Azure Police, File Server, el File Sync, the Monitor. And the image cluster, as I told you through in the new version of Windows Admin Center, we will be able to access information in real time of the old cluster and see their status and consumption of memory and process and storage, in the great help to have information when we will have the high load in company on the large size. Other functionality I want to share with the U extension for the different hardware manufacturing. Since many of the work in the infrastructure have the company and have a management different console, well, the Admin Center already has them integrate and the brands recognized to be able the Windows console. And when there is a new update from the manufacturer, you can access the new functionality direct without installing any independent. Here some of the brands that collaborate with Windows Admin Center that mentioned the brand. DataOms, Lenovo, Fujitsu, Pure Storage, Hewlett Packard, which is the whole are really commit to hybrid cloud. Fujitsu, which is also already coming the hybrid cloud and integrate Windows Admin Center in the company service with able control server and connectivity. Here, the new functionality virtual machine signs through on the tool you can create either on a virtual machine with a cloud from our local Windows Admin Center console, management, your network, and access each for the functionality and be able to control without having access from Azure portal. Let's go with a demo. With a demo creation from what? On-premise in Azure. Well, let's go with a demo able to create from Windows Admin Center local to connect to Azure. In the next step, the first must login with us as Azure associate the Azure subscription by click in the button Initial Session. In the next, we must go to the left side and copy the code and click on Register button. Next, we enter our credential. Next, we validate and give permission to be able to connect to Azure. Next, we are now ready to work from the Windows Admin Center console. You're ready. The next, click in Add virtual machine. The next, you will unload the contact information. We enter and select our subscription. We select the group resource. We enter the name on the virtual machine and image and select image of the operating system we want. Next, we enter the credential with which we are the connect the virtual machine. Next, that we select the size of the virtual machine. The next, we select type of the disk of our virtual machine. We can add the virtual machine to the domain if we wish. Next, We can see the network interface of the virtual machine. Click in the create. Next, our virtual machine begin to create. To begin to create, next, click in the finish creative virtual machine. In the next, our virtual machine in our console. We see that already at the aggregate now our console virtual machine of Azure in the console Windows 10 locally. In the portal Azure view overview, the virtual machine is created. And the Windows Admin Center local in the Windows 10 is agreed virtual machine. Next, presentation. Another of the new functionality that a new version brings to able to access file server in our console and management in a simpler way and give access level through the Windows Admin Center console. In the amazing Azure File Service, here we see you easy is to share it and resource the Windows Admin Center in the give permission and assign user who can access to shared folder in the network. Another functionality the Windows Admin Center that brings is containers. Since many companies have applications mounted in the containers, and now from the sample console, you be able to access your container and management it and be able to see its status and information about it. In this image, the Windows Admin Center container, from where you access repository, select uncertainly version of container, and see to access the network its volume. And user experience. Well, here we have a very friendly style from the Windows Admin Center tool that you can recognize the type of the service you will use in the console that make for that work easy. In the image, the Windows Admin Center, here you see icons such in the file, Azure Backup, PowerShell, Update, Virtual Machine that help to IoT identity service that we can management in Windows Admin Center. Azure, the new features, the Azure Stack HCI ACEI. We are the Windows Admin Center tool as the support of the SDN networking software and can provide my company with the ability to deploy the complement in corporate network. And today I bring you one more news in the See Today's demo. The login to Azure in the Windows Admin Center is the preview version, but I really worked an interesting thing to explore it with the Azure Cloud. Very good. Demo management service in Azure with the WAC. Good. In the demo, in the Microsoft Azure portal, the virtual machine, in the option, the virtual machine, review Windows Admin Center preview. In the connect, the Azure in the Windows Admin Center preview for administration, the resource on roles and items for the administration, connect in the load information, in the local user groups, in the create user, very easy for the user groups, in the portfolio, in the user Ivan Martinez M, in the user initialization, Windows Admin Center local machine, in the new user, demo user, for name demo user, description, and the administrative, the password, vamos a poner in the password is strong, the uppercase, lowercase, special character in any code. In the new confirmation, submit. Listo. Ready in the demo user. On the review service, the virtual machine, the possibility, the start, restart service, the virtual machine, and easy for administration in the device. In the device is virtual machine that the port 80 y access web IIS for virtual machine. ADD. The overview, public address, wow, in the service, Internet Information Service is ready. The next presentation. Thank you. Listo. Continue the presentation. The new features mean that it's coming for the future update handling of various devices. It's IoT support. In the automatic updates, now the option is implemented so that only every time an open console is updated and you not to install for the new update Windows Admin Center for each new update. No? Automatic update for the partner extension. Here you will also have the option to active and your extension is always updated with the hardware manufacturer and you are always with the new filters. Standalone tool management. We can show the external window for the great comfort with the tool and to able to work outside the console is required by the Windows Administrator Admin Center. The cluster node status. Here we can access information or clusters, see you their status in real time, see drives, volume, and update. In the presentation is the status, the nodes, and to finish the Windows Admin Center allow you to have a clear vision of our local infrastructure and as the cloud increasing productivity today organization for the same administration center and without a single click. Here is information and documentation about the Windows Admin Center 2103. We have where you download and see your information for the mouse ID. Here to close, I leave my social network and thank you very much for those who for me network and shared the tweet and session today and the official event, the Azure Summit.
All right, so that was a session by Ivan. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it, so that was a recorded session, and we won't be able to take questions after this session. But having said that, this is the end of part 1 of day 6 of Cloud Summit 2021. As always, I I say the moment we end a part, we move to the other part of this summit. That is, please click on this link to move to the part 2 of Summit Day 6. And before we move there, as always, there's always a giveaway that I'm gonna do. So let me quickly share my screen and let's see who's going to win it. Yeah, all right. So as always, we have been saying that whenever you go in and ask a question to the speaker, please make sure that you use the hashtag #CloudSummit, and just the #CloudSummit does not count. It's not a valid entry. You need to add something, great session, enjoying it, or ask a question. That's how entry becomes valid. Just a simple #CloudSummit won't do. So let's go and see who wins it. It's time for lucky draw. Who's going to win it? Dum 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 dum. All right, Iqbal. Congratulations, Iqbal. Congratulations, Iqbal. I have been looking at Iqbal. He has been